Okay.
Here I am. Sorry for the
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Very, very, very interesting thing about innovation. Before having some questions from the audience, I will start our conversation with another question about innovation. I mean, how do you foster innovation in your teams at DocuSign?
Yeah, so that's I was running out of time. I mean, this talk was like 25 minutes. I used to talk in length, like during probably 2 hours when I have people coming, and it's way more interactive. So when it comes to fostering innovation, the first thing is about the blameless culture. So you need to have people think, or I would say feel, that they are entitled to share whatever their ideas here are. And entitled, what I mean by that is, I've seen some organization, and I've worked in the defense industry, where people are highly respectful of the hierarchy. So when their boss is in the room, they're like, oh no, he needs to be the one looking smart. Because if I start asking I would say, good questions and stuff like this, I would say, make him or her uncomfortable. And that's something that you need to get rid of. It may be cultural. I work with people in Asia where that's cultural. They respect so much the hierarchy that this is their way to do, and that's really interesting. But I would strongly suggest people to build a sense of anyone can talk. That's why I mentioned the book Creativity Inc. because the guy at Pixar. So when they were talking about a movie and doing a projection in the company, anyone can join the projection, raise their hand and say, you know what, nah, this part, I'm not sure. And you don't have to explain why. You don't have to be like, I would say, some kind of a smart ass talking about the colors or the background being weird. You just have to come back and provide your feeling, so that it helps others to think and brainstorm about the reason why you have this reaction and everything. So building this sense of I'm entitled to say anything is really key. And this is something that is also coming from the Toyota way. So the book that I mentioned earlier, in the Toyota plant, anyone that is working on the manufacturing station, so they have access to this long string where basically they can pull the string, that will stop the production, and they can say, hey, something is wrong. We need to change the way, whatever. And when you put in place something like this, so basically they see this string, they know that they can pull it. So the question is how you can make this string, I would say, visible in your own company, so that you know that your team, I would say, you not only say, but your team really see that they can basically pull that string and say, hey, we need to change our way to CI/CD. We need to change our way to do the process to get, I would say, acquisition of new software or whatever it can be. But people should be entitled to talk about it, which means that if the idea is stupid, which is probably the case 90% of the time, which is fine, you have to react accordingly and just say, oh yeah, damn, thank you. Let me think through it. Have you thought about this? And blah, blah, blah. So that the person is coming and say, yeah, maybe that was not a great idea. Yeah, probably, so bad. Thank you so much. The person will come back with another stupid idea. And then maybe the fifth one will be like a brilliant idea. So you want basically to have this in your company.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking too much.
No, you're not. It's very interesting because if we talk a little bit about smaller organizations, especially startups that want to develop and grow, they come to they start with a product, and more often than not, members of the team want to bring in new features, to innovate. And on one hand, you have to foster innovation, but you have to know when to stop and execute. How can you find the balance?
That's probably tough. I would say that most of the startups that I've seen, I would say you don't just have time. I would say you're just running to get your customers, and you're basically building to get the first success, to get your first 10 customers, 100 customers. And then you start to have this momentum and you have the growth. And then it's not about innovation anymore. You're just basically running out of time. You're hiring like crazy and you're just coping with the situation, which is a good problem to have. So I don't believe that it's highly critical in the beginning to be highly innovative. You have a good idea, you have a good, I would say, plan to get that to the market and everything. Just do it and do it a crappy way. That's okay. That's okay. That it's totally okay if it's not perfect for the first company. I will just give you one example. In this Zone to Win framework, Geoffrey Moore talked about the way Microsoft bring Azure to the market. They did innovate, I would say, by reacting to AWS. They were basically copying what AWS were doing, but they did it just in an okay way. It was just okay. I mean, people that have used Azure in the beginning and compared to AWS, I mean, it's not the same product at all. But for the customer of Microsoft that had their, I would say, the trust, and they knew their sales rep, and they had this long-term relationship, they looked at the product and they said, you know what, it's good enough. Sure, I don't have all those fancy, whatever, alerting, automation, whatever, but it's good enough. And it will allow me to keep my strong relationship with this partner, get rid of my data centers on-prem, and shift to the cloud. Good enough. So I would say, moving that to your startup, you're in a great market. You know that you're solving a problem that no one is doing, or you do it in a different way. You don't have to be perfect. Go to the market and learn there. Because no matter what, even if you do it perfect, you go to the market and your customer will be like, yeah, it's perfect for you. For me, it's not exactly perfect. And then you have this iteration. So I would say, I'm a strong proponent of shipping, I would say, pretty early and learn a lot from that. And that's true for a startup with, I would say, the market. But it's true also for an internal team that is building for, like, let's assume you're in a bigger organization and you're building tools for your internal customers. Maybe you're a part of the, I would say, DevOps team, and you want to build some automation for the engineers. Don't wait to have like the perfect pipeline, the perfect platform to ship it. Ship it clunky, solving one problem, do it well, solve the problem well. Don't be perfect on the rest. Ship it, gather the feedback, and iterate so that you bring, I mean, that's kind of classic, but bring the value early.
Yeah.
Learn from it and then iterate on it. So yeah, that would be my strong suggestion.
I will also have two questions about managing teams, but first a question from the audience. It says it's a more personal question, but when did you read those books you recommended, and to whom age profession do you recommend them the most?
That's a good question. Turn the ship around. So the one about the commander in the submarine is probably more targeting people that are already in the management space. So they have already experienced some failures. So hopefully they had some failures, and they're starting to question themselves the way they're managing. So you already need to know a bit about your management style so that you can read this book and reflect on your way and think what you can change. If you're an early engineer or you're basically just starting, I would say, a startup out of college, you don't have enough experience to really get the value from the book. You will totally understand it, and there will be some cool stuff, but probably you will enjoy it more with the experience of the work. Creativity Inc. can be read at, I would say, anytime during college or even in high school. It's a pretty cool book to understand why Pixar was working while Disney was not at the same time, and bringing some shitty movies while Pixar was like, boom, creating some crazy new stuff and everything. So just that is just really interesting, and probably will, I would say, provide an imprint on probably the best way to treat people moving on in your career. But as every book, the more you grow old, the more experience you have, the more insight you get from the book, because it helps you reflect on what you've done. But it's one that you can start already. The Toyota Way is interesting, but I would start with the Phoenix Project. So this is all about the operational mechanism. The Phoenix project is it's a classic. It's a classic I would say, if you are all about DevOps, DevSecOps, SRE, and all those agility type of mechanism.
Yeah.
This is the Bible. This is the really first book that talked about it, and in a way that is just amazing. It's a novel. It's basically a novel, story of a guy that was an IT manager and become basically the CIO of that company, and he has basically to support, I would say, all the team and the product and everything regarding the infrastructure. And it's all about bringing Kanban and bringing visibility and managing I would say, that one SME, I would say, that guy or that lady that is your key engineer, but damn, she's doing everything and she's crawling under the work, and you don't have like the capability to, I would say, double the skill set. So, so this one is, as soon as you start, this is something that is really interesting.
Thank you. I said that I have two questions about managing team, but also people in the audience can still ask questions if they want. Now, DocuSign as a company grew very fast. And what have you learned? What are some traps, some pitfalls that we should avoid when hiring teams while we scale up? From your own experience, because you have a lot of experience in hiring fast.
So first, I would say, and that's probably I would say, when you grow so fast, I would say the classic problems of onboarding people, how you manage the communication, how you share I would say the travel knowledge that I would say the teams. I would say when you start a startup, when you start your company, usually I would say before COVID, you were all in the same room, so it was easy to share I would say, all the stuff that you were doing. Documentation was an afterthought, and then you start adding people, and you say, "Oh, talk to that guy, talk to that girl," and you will basically understand how this is working. But at some point, the talk to that person doesn't work anymore, and I would say moving to COVID has been really tough for companies like. I would say DocuSign was. I would say eventually it was great, but in the beginning it was hard. We were not really. I would say our culture of writing was not there. Our way to onboard people was really like people to people. So we were sending people to Seattle, to San Francisco, so that they understand from the teams how things are working. Because I would say on the whiteboard you explain like you do the diagrams and everything, and like, oh damn, this is how it works. Okay, thank you. And then you can work.
Yeah.
Now it's really harder to do it. I would say with the COVID and everything, so you have to change your ways. Anyway, so that's the kind of the classic. What is maybe less classic, it can be interesting, is people. You've seen that, I would say, CEOs, CFOs, usually, they change, I would say, over the course of the company. When you have a startup, you're the founder, maybe out of college, you don't have really a CFO in the beginning, then you grow, you start having a CFO, and you're growing, and then, okay, you're a founder, but the reality is you're more a CPO. Like, it's the product side that is really interesting.
Exactly.
It's not that fun. So people are pretty used to the fact that at some point, you come back as I would say, CPO founder, CTO founder. So it's pretty common to see that the CEO is changing. And then your company goes to IPO, and it's another story. So then people are used to see that, oh, they changed the CEO, they changed the CFO, they changed whatever, the head of sales. So or maybe they bring a new VP of engineering that is used to that size. So people are pretty used to the exec team changing. But the reality is, and this is my point, it's so true for engineers. I would say there's a lot of engineers that will definitely thrive and be really happy in a team of 20.
Yeah.
But as soon as the team is like 100, I would say more than 100, this is the time where you have hard time reminding all the names of everyone. Getting to understand everyone, and then your impact starts to be like less on the product and more deep on one thing. Maybe your thing will be storage. Maybe your thing will be the UI framework. But your impact then is totally different than the one in the beginning where you were full stack and touching everything, and then you have this prod with five other guys and girls in the room to build a product. Now, maybe you've been in charge of, a feature, but the product is different. So that's something that is really interesting and really important when you're hiring people, to understand if they are the right type of people at this time for the company. So they can be great engineers, but for huge company, because that type of engineers, they love like to be on the really nitty-gritty of one problem, which is, I don't know, the network scalability, and that's their thing. Sure, but you're the only tech ops. You have to basically manage a lot of other things. That won't work. And on the other hand, there's some engineers that's rather not be too deep, but really broad in terms of ownership. Those are great for your early stage in the company. So and so that's true for hiring, but that's true for your team also. So as a manager, you have really to understand and make your people understand that maybe the frustration they get is not because the company is different now or the culture has changed. It's just that, no, we've grown.
Yeah.
We grew, sorry. And this is the company's today. And maybe, you know what, that's okay, but you're not made for this side of the company because you don't get joy in your work anymore. So I'm not getting you out, but you need to think about it, I would say, in this way. So that's also part of my mentorship with my teams. People need to understand, I would say, what is their sweet spot? What is the type of company or the stage of the company they are really happy with?
Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Loic, for everything. And have fun at DocuSign. It's been a wonderful year until now.
Yeah, it was definitely. Well, thank you so much, Adrian.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.